Welcome back to our daily Living Jewish Kitzur Shulchan Aruch class. We are in the middle of section 72 of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. We learned about the importance of Shabbos, and we are continuing to learn about the way to get ready for Shabbos. Let's take a quick look at what we've learned so far. We've learned about the greatness of Shabbos, not desecrating Shabbos, the reward, buying food for Shabbos, getting up early Friday morning to do your shop bright and early, being involved in the preparation, making challah, having delicious food and a set home. Even the poor should get something special for Shabbos. We should stop working once Shabbos is getting close, and we shouldn't be having feasts on a Friday, so that we will come into the Shabbos meal with an appetite. Apologies for the delays. Learned also about the importance of going over the parsha before Shabbos, reading each verse twice in Hebrew and once in the Aramaic, in the Onkelos, or at least with Rashi, or some other commentary. We are up to Halacha Yud Beis. It is a mitzvah for everyone to wash his face, hands, and feet with hot water every Friday. And if possible, you should wash your whole body with hot water. And you immerse yourself in the mikveh. So back in the day, people used to go to the bathhouse once a week. An appropriate time to do that would be Shabbos. But even nowadays, we're showering every day. When it comes to Friday, and there's an added dimension that we're doing it not just for ourselves, but we're doing it to honor the Shabbos. At least our face, hands, and feet. But all the better if we can wash our entire body. And it is customary to go to mikveh on a Friday. For men to go to mikveh on a Friday, as Shabbos is a special time, it's a holier time, we have an added soul on Shabbos. And in order to prepare ourselves spiritually for Shabbos, there's a custom for men to go to mikveh, although this isn't a requirement, but nonetheless practiced in all Hasidic and many non-Hasidic communities. Once talking about going to mikveh Friday afternoon, where things could be busy, he mentions that it is forbidden to bathe with one's father or father-in-law or stepfather or brother-in-law. So he's saying that if things are going to be busy, then one shouldn't bathe in their presence. And the reason for this, I believe, is because of the added prohibition. The Torah obviously forbids a man engaging in relations with a man, but there's an added sin, an added prohibition, an added mitzvah not to engage with a family. So I believe as part of a distancing from that prohibition, he says that one shouldn't even bathe at the same time. And in places where it is customary to cover the nakedness in the bathhouse, it is permitted. So we're talking not about a swim, we're talking specifically about mikveh. Also, the student should not bathe with his teacher, but if he needs him to assist him, then it is permitted. He brings over here an important note, one of the books of commentaries, Aruch Shulchan, that if we're talking about young children that actually needed added guarding, protection, but maybe back in the day that they wouldn't drown, and maybe even today, where there could be other concerns, so one can be lenient. And also, in general, he brings from another source that in bathhouses where there are many people around, one can be more lenient. Practically, I don't think that Hasidim that do make a point of going to mikveh on a Friday, I think practically it's not a problem. it is practiced. Maybe there are different opinions. So you have to ask your LOR, local Orthodox rabbi. Moving along, there's a mitzvah to wash your hair and to cut your nails and to have your hair cut if it is too long. All in honor of Shabbos, not just for yourself, but for Shabbos. However, you should not cut your fingernails and toenails on the same day. And you should not cut. So why not fingernails and toenails at the same time? It's in order. It's dangerous. What's the danger involved?
What you do with cut them?
Sorry, Master?
What you do with them after you cut them?
Oh yes, definitely the nails should not be just disregarded. They should be disposed of immediately. In fact, some have the custom of burning the nails to ensure that nobody gets damaged. They can have a negative spiritual energy to them and cause God forbid a woman to miscarry. So one needs to be very careful. It has to do with the fact that since our body is holy, the negative energies try to get a hold on our bodies as well. And sometimes they linger on in the nails. So when we cut the nails, we want to make sure to completely discard them. Yeah, it's a danger. What exactly the danger is, we're not sure. There's some spiritual danger of cutting your hands and feet at the same time. Same day. Which means that we're going to see in a moment, it's also customary not to cut one's nails on a Thursday. We'll see. So that means that a person would cut their, let's say, toenails on a Wednesday, and then their hand nails on a Friday in honor of Shabbos. You also shouldn't cut your nails or your hair on Rosh Chodesh, even if it occurs on a Friday. Although it's worth mentioning that in the Shulchan Aruch of the author of the Tanya, the first Chabad Rebbe, he mentions not cutting one's nail. He mentions not having a haircut on Rosh Chodesh, but he does not mention not cutting one's nails on Rosh Chodesh. So in Chabad communities, but they're not, I believe they may not be particular about not cutting nails on Rosh Chodesh, but certainly one should not have a haircut on Rosh Chodesh. Okay, when we do cut our nails, we shouldn't cut them in order, but rather one should alternate. Also from the Shalach, from Kabbalistic sources. So you start with the right hand, because everything we do, we always start with the right. And you would start with the finger next to the thumb. No, 1 second. You start with your right hand. That's interesting. I think there are different opinions about this. I know that we start with our left hand, and we go every other finger. If you can see all my fingers here. So you would go that finger, number 4, and then number 2, and then back to 5, and then 3, and then 1, and then skip the thumb, and then go 2, and then 4, and then 1, and then 3, and then 5. That's the order that we cut them. Yeah, as we see, there's a debate which hand's nails you should cut first. Some are particular not to cut the nails on Thursday because they start growing on Shabbos, which is the 3rd day. The nails start growing 3 days after the 3rd day after they're cut. And the idea is that we don't want it to look like we are causing growth on Shabbos, even though strict according to the letter of the law, there's nothing wrong because you've done it all beforehand. But since it looks like it's beginning on Shabbos, so some are careful not to cut their nails on a Thursday. It is proper to take care to burn one's nails after they are cut. As we said, they could cause physical danger because of the negative spiritual energy. So if you can't burn them, you can bury them or even to flush them down the toilet. In addition to making sure that your clothes are clean and your food is ready, and that you've showered, and that you've groomed yourself, every Erev Shabbos you should examine your deeds and arouse yourself to teshuvah and make amends for all the misdeeds you did in the 6 weekdays, because Erev Shabbos incorporates all the days of the week, just as the day before Rosh Chodesh incorporates the whole previous month. So the day before Shabbos, meaning Friday, is the time to look back at the week and look at things that we may have done wrong and see how we can rectify them. Practically speaking, Friday is a pretty busy day. So a good time to do that would be Thursday night, because in the Jewish calendar, the night before is already the day that follows. So Thursday night is already the beginning of Erev Shabbos, of Fridays. Thursday night is a good time for a person to spend more time before they go to sleep, thinking about the past 6 days and how they could grow and rectify and come closer to Hashem. Let's start on a daily basis before we go to sleep at the end of the day. It's done on a weekly basis on a Friday before the end of the week. And it's done on a monthly basis on Erev Rosh Chodesh before the end of the month. You should try to wear fine clothing and also a nice talus in honor of the Shabbos, as it is written, and you shall honor it. So not only should your clothes be clean, but they should be nice clothing. And it is explained by the sages that your Shabbos clothes should not be like your weekday clothes. And even if you are traveling amongst non-Jews, you should wear Shabbos clothes, because the clothes are not for the honor of those who see them, but for the honor of Shabbos itself. So even if nobody's going to see besides for you yourself, or practically in COVID times, if you were stuck at home alone the whole Shabbos, still you would get dressed in your fancy Shabbos clothes, because you're dressing not just for others, but in honor of Shabbos itself. So certainly this is something that people often are a little bit lax about. Obviously, we welcome everybody exactly as they are, but if you're looking to observe Shabbos in the best way, it means that men should get dressed in beautiful clothes, as if you're going to a wedding, or I should say smart clothes, handsome clothes, and women should get dressed in beautiful clothes, ones that would be for a special occasion, for a celebration. It's not just a regular Saturday morning, it is our holy Shabbos, a very special day, and we should get dressed up accordingly. Okay, so as we get closer to Shabbos, we need to make sure that everything is in place. And he says cooked foods should be removed from the coals before Shabbos, meaning you should take your pots off the fire, because you're not allowed to leave a pot cooking on a fire on Shabbos in case you come to play with the fire, to increase it or to stir the pot. You need what's called a blech. A blech is a covering that covers over the fire to remind you that you shouldn't touch it. And if you don't have that, you got to make sure to take the pot off the fire before Shabbos begins. If you forgot and you did not remove them, then you wouldn't be allowed to remove the pot from the coals on Shabbos, because by moving the pot, you're going to move the coals. And by moving the coals, you are going to be causing the coals to be ignited or extinguished, which is a prohibition. It's lighting a fire on Shabbos. So if you are in that predicament where you forgot to remove the pot before Shabbos and it's sitting on the coals, then you could ask a non-Jew to remove it, because then when you ask them to remove it, you're not asking them to ignite the coals. All you're asking them to do is to move the pot. The fact that the coals get ignited along the way is not part of what you're asking them to do. So even if it happens, it's not a problem. We will learn soon that anything that a Jew is not allowed to do on Shabbos, the Jew is not allowed to ask a non-Jew to do for them on Shabbos. But removing the pot from the coals, you're not asking them to ignite the coals, you're only asking them to remove the pot. So the fact that the coals are being ignited along the way, that's not considered as being done by you, by your emissary. Rather, it's considered just to be done by the non-Jew, which is fine. I guess another example today, we don't have coals, but if you have a braai, by removing stuff off the braai, then the liquid's probably going to drip, and again, you'll cause the flames to burn up more or less, or affect the coals. So if you forgot to take your stuff off the braai, which you were braaiing up on a Friday afternoon, then you would need to ask a non-Jew to do that for you. That way, if the coals are extinguished, that's not being done by a Jew.
So if you, Shabbos guy comes in and it's dark, you don't tell him put on the lights. You say, I would like to give you a drink, but it's too dark. So he goes and switch it off. You didn't tell him to do it.
Correct. So we'll learn soon all about this concept of a Shabbos guy. A Shabbos guy is in certain instances when you can't do something. You can ask a non-Jew, but we'll learn that many times when people think that a Shabbos guy is a solution, it is actually forbidden, because we'll learn that whatever you're not allowed to do on Shabbos, you're not allowed to ask a non-Jew to do for you. And if he does it for you, it's as if you did it yourself. But in the instance that Moshe described, since you're asking him to get a drink, so he is doing something which he will gain from. He is doing something for his own benefit. He's getting himself a drink. Now, the fact that you're gaining as well is fine, because you didn't ask him to do something for you. You asked him to do something for himself. So since and what you asked him to do was not something forbidden. You just asked him to get a drink. So since you asked him to do something for himself, and what you asked him to do was allowed, and along the way he turned on the lights, so that is a workaround where, as a result of that, you'd be able to be sitting in the light. Because were you to ask him to turn on the lights, then he would be acting as your agent, and it would be as if you lit the light yourself. But since you're not asking him to light the light, you're asking him to help himself to a drink, then he's not doing it as your agent, he's doing it for himself to gain. So then that is an example of when a Shabbos guy may be used. We'll learn more about that, please God, in the days and weeks to come. Okay, now cooked food can be placed in the oven on Friday to be eaten on Shabbos, as is our custom, even though the door is not sealed with mata is permitted. So this is obviously if the food was already ready before Shabbos. Even though the door is not sealed, it is permitted. We're not worried that you might open it and stalk the coals. However, it is forbidden to open the oven at night, for there may be food which is not thoroughly cooked, and by closing the oven afterwards, you'll be causing the cooking to accelerate it. Now, this halacha about ovens have changed over the generations. So I would want to actually get back to you on this one. So please God, we'll come back to this halacha with the help of Hashem. And then he moves into another topic, which is, okay, what happens if you want chicken soup, but you don't want to leave your fire on the whole Shabbos, and you're not going to be able to turn it off on Shabbos? So can you wrap up your soup in a towel, and that way it will stay hot without you having to break Shabbos by turning off the stove? Stay tuned, please, guys. Next week, same time, same place. Wishing you all a wonderful